Have you guys ever had a show that you kept putting off watching but you don't know why? Yeah, for me, that was Hunter x Hunter. For some reason, I just couldn't bring myself to click that start watching button on Netflix. But, thanks to some light nudging from my friends, I finally gave in, and oh my god, I am so happy I did. I watched it, and rewatched it over and over again. I think I might have watched it like 10 times already this year, and I started in January, so I could confidently say that I love this show. However, I'm not a big fan of the main character. Look, don't get me wrong, Gon is a decent protagonist and all, but I think that like many other fans on their first watch, I was a little taken back at how this guy did a complete 180, going from the same wide-eyed kid in the Hunter exam arc to this ruthless monster in Chimera Ant. I wanted answers. What was Gon's problem? Why did he freak out and almost die for some dude he knew for like 3 weeks? What gives? So to get the answers I needed, I went to the Hunter x Hunter subreddit and asked the people on there for some help. And I actually got a good amount of responses, and today I would like to share them with you in case you have similar questions like I did. I'll link the whole thread in the description, but today we're going to be focusing on a select few. Before we begin though, there are going to be heavy spoilers for Hunter x Hunter, so beware if you weren't caught up yet. Alright, let's go. So I'm not going to read my entire post, so you could just pause it here if you want to read the whole thing, and I even included the full text in the description if you want a bigger view. But if you don't want to do either, then here are the TLDR bullet points from my argument. A. Why is Gon so selfish? B. The argument that he's a kid makes no sense because other kids in the show mean that Killua at his worst doesn't turn into a fucking monster when he's angry. C. Where does Gon get that chip on his shoulder? He had no traumatic past, nothing to give him this inflated sense of pride. He's not Vegeta, Bakugo, or Escanor. So where did it come from, and why is he willing to die for it? Most importantly, why was he willing to kill and die for some random dude he met once as a kid and then traveled with for like a week? Now, I actually got a few responses, as I mentioned. One of the first responses I got was from user LateLead. I won't read the entire thing, but his argument was that Gon grew up without a father or mother. Not exactly a nuclear family dynamic, sure, but here's the thing. He was raised in a very loving environment regardless with Mito and his grandmother, which is easily much better than Killua had it. Killua was basically bred and raised in an environment of murder, and even at the worst of Chimera Ant, he never went down the same rabbit hole that Gon did. Now, Mr. LateLead had a point about one thing though. The biggest difference is that Killua, ironically, is the only person of the 4 main characters who hasn't experienced any real loss yet. So the real question is, would he have snapped as hard as Gon did if it had been Alluka instead of Kite? Who knows? But it was something I didn't consider before and I thought it was interesting. Now, speaking of Kite, this was something that actually caused a little stir on the feed because my experience, as well as the experience of many other fans that watched Hunter x Hunter, has been mainly through the 2011 anime adaptation instead of the 1999 one or the manga. So it turns out that for whatever reason, the 2011 adaptation decided to completely remove Kite and Gon's history prior to Chimera Ant. What? Why? So as it turns out, on the day Kite punched Gon in their first meeting, they also struck up a conversation, and it was because of this situation that Gon found out that Jean was alive, because Mito and his grandmother told him that Jean was dead. And it was this conversation with Kite that set Gon on his quest to be a hunter and to finally meet Jean. Now, at first, this shocked me, but while it did make me understand Gon's reaction a little bit better, the lack of any further depth outside of that day and the 2 weeks in the beginning of Chimera Ant, Gon still hardly knew Kite well enough to have that reaction. But I'm willing to take the L on that one because that just might be me projecting my morals in that situation, so Mr. LateLead, I guess you won that one. Now, moving on to the other argument that I would like to address, this one coming from Mr. Veloka, who had a very interesting perspective. Gon's selfishness, as well as his stubbornness, doesn't come from a sense of pride, but rather a sense of doing things according to a very specific and high standard, Jean's standard. Velka says, finding Jean is basically Gon's ideal image of achievement. It's the entire reason he left Whale Island in the first place, and it's the reason the entire story of Hunter x Hunter even started. So it's not that Gon is selfish or prideful, but it's that, and I quote, meeting Jean is an achievement only if he did it right. Entering the Hunter exam at the age of 12, like his father, refusing to forfeit a fight against Hanzo even though it's clear he can't win because he needs to prove himself to Jean. Now, I actually like this point, and I mostly agree with it. For example, when you look at Greed Island, the entire thing was made by Jean to test Gon. Even if, and eventually, when Gon won, he didn't do it correctly, he still wouldn't be allowed to meet Jean. Yeah, Jean's got some pretty high standards, or he's just a deadbeat. But I digress. But one part of Velka's argument bugged me the most. In his post, he gave 5 examples of what he thought were moments that highlighted Gon's selfishness. 1. He stops midway through the second phase of the first exam to help Leorio and Kurapika from Hisoka. 2. He votes against Leorio in the election because he understands that Leorio wants to be a doctor. 3. He helps random people on the boat to the Hunter exam who have seasickness. 4. He runs after Killua to get him away from his family after the Hunter exam. 5. Helping Leorio during the fourth phase of the Hunter exam. Entering the cave and getting bitten by snakes and carrying everybody out was just an act of selflessness. And while I can see where Velika is coming from, I could argue that all of these examples actually prove something else entirely. Gon only helps out his friends, or people he knows or likes. That's it. Did he help this guy by warning him that Pokel was stalking him? No. Did he care that his fellow examinees died? No. He didn't give it a second thought. When Killua straight up murdered Botaro, Gon wasn't going, "Oh no, poor Botaro." We never knew what Hisoka whispered in his ear, by the way. He didn't care. So while I do understand the arguments to be made in favor of Gon being good, or just a product of his upbringing, who knows? What I definitely can say for sure is that now, thanks to the Hunter x Hunter subreddit, I now look at Gon more three-dimensionally as a character, and it made me revisit Hunter x Hunter with a brand new perspective. So I wanted to share some of those perspectives with you so you could do the same. I'll leave the full thread in the description in case you guys want to see all the other perspectives. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please leave a like. If you love the video, please leave a sub. Have you got any Hunter x Hunter fan theories? Let me know in the comments below. And you can check out my other anime videos and other content in different playlists here and here. Till next time, later. Thanks for watching.